The galaxy had seen many strange events, but nothing like this. One quiet morning, every channel, every signal, every gate leading to Earth went dark. For centuries, Earth had been part of the Galactic Empire's network, trading, talking, and sometimes arguing with its alien neighbors. Human ships had traveled to hundreds of worlds, selling technology, bringing medicine, sharing stories. In return, alien traders brought rare metals, exotic food, and machines from the far edges of the stars. But on that day, without warning, it all stopped. The Empire's diplomats in orbit above Earth sent their daily greeting. No reply. They tried again. No reply. They sent urgent priority messages. Still nothing. At first, they thought it was a technical failure. Communication errors happened sometimes. A broken satellite, a malfunctioning relay station. But then, the gates closed. The main space gates that connected Earth's system to the rest of the galaxy, those massive rings of metal and energy, shut down. Not damaged, not destroyed. Simply closed. The gate's shimmering blue light faded to black, and the giant metal arcs stood silent in space. Inside the Sol system, every human ship stopped answering hails. Every Earth station refused contact. Every channel that had once carried news, music, and trade offers from Earth now carried nothing but static. At first, the Empire laughed. "Humans," they said in their grand council chambers, "are unpredictable. They are dramatic. This is probably some political stunt." But the laughter did not last long, because the humans left one message. It was short, cold, and written. In every language of the galaxy, Earth will speak to no one. That was all. No explanation, no demands, no threats. Just that single line. Rumors spread faster than light. On the trade worlds, alien merchants whispered that humans had finally built the ultimate weapon and were now hiding while they prepared to use it. On mining stations, workers said they had seen strange human ships far from known space, building secret outposts. On frontier colonies, old war veterans swore this was a warning, that something dangerous was about to happen. The Empire sent patrol ships to the Sol border. They found nothing but silence. A week passed, then another. By the third week, unease began to grow in the Imperial Palace. Earth had always been active. Humans were explorers, builders, traders. They were always doing something. The idea that they would simply sit quietly, cut off from the galaxy, was unnatural. The Emperor ordered a diplomatic mission. A grand envoy of alien ambassadors was sent to Earth, carrying messages of friendship and concern. Their ships approached the outer defense ring of the Sol system. They broadcast peaceful greetings in 100 languages. No one replied. The alien ships moved closer. They passed through the edge of the system, expecting at least to be met by human border guards. But the human fleet was nowhere to be seen. The planets lay quiet. Even the great orbital cities around Mars were dark. Then, one by one, the envoy's ships lost power. Lights went out. Engines fell silent. Their weapons went dead. Panic spread among the crews as they drifted, helpless. Something, no one knew what, had shut down every system. After exactly 10 minutes, the power returned. All systems came back online. The ships turned around and fled the system without looking back. When they reached the nearest Imperial base, they found something strange. Every ship, in the same spot on its hull, had a small mark burned into the metal. It was the image of a closed door. The message was clear. In the council chambers, the Empire debated what to do. Some senators said it was an insult, that the humans were arrogant and needed to be taught a lesson. Others warned that it was dangerous, that the humans would not act like this without a reason. Meanwhile, the galaxy's smaller nations began to move their fleets away from human space. Traders began avoiding the border. Even smugglers stayed away. because something about the silence was more frightening than war. For years, the galaxy had known Earth as a voice, loud, sometimes rude, often clever, but always speaking. Now that voice was gone, and in its place was something far more dangerous. Patience. 3 months later, something else happened. A single human ship appeared in the skies above the Imperial capital world. It was small, unarmed, and completely unremarkable, at least on the outside. It drifted down into orbit without asking permission. Ignoring every warning from the Imperial Navy, the ship did not fire a shot. It did not open its weapons ports. It simply released a small black cube into space. The cube floated gently toward the Emperor's palace. Imperial security scanned it for explosives, for viruses, for anything dangerous. They found nothing. Against their better judgment, they brought it inside. The cube opened and projected an image into the air. It was a human face, not smiling, not angry, just calm. It spoke 4 words. "Do not come again." Then the image faded, and the cube turned to dust in the Emperor's hand. The Imperial court laughed nervously. But the Emperor did not. He had noticed something strange. The cube had displayed a set of numbers before it dissolved. The numbers matched the exact coordinates of every Imperial fleet in the galaxy, including secret deployments known only to the Emperor himself. How the humans had that information, no one could explain. From that day, a quiet fear began to spread through the stars. The Empire had many enemies, but none so mysterious as Earth, and for the first time in living memory, the Empire hesitated before making its next move. Because somewhere behind its closed doors, Earth was watching, and the stars trembled. The humans had gone silent. The Empire could not ignore it, and neither could the rest of the galaxy. At first, the silence was just strange. Now it was beginning to feel dangerous. On every world, in every spaceport, there were whispers. On the desert trade moon of Ravax, merchants spoke in low voices over steaming cups of spiced tea. "They have a new weapon," one said, glancing around nervously. "Something that can shut down entire fleets." Another merchant shook his head. "No. I heard they found something out there, beyond known space. Something powerful. Now they're hiding it until they can use it." In the mining tunnels of Grix 7, workers shared their own rumors. "They've built hidden bases on dead planets," a grizzled miner said. "They're surrounding the galaxy, quietly." Some laughed, but no one truly dismissed the thought. The Empire's spies worked overtime. Dozens of agents tried to sneak into human space. None came back. Some ships were simply lost. Others returned adrift with no crew on board. The few who made it out alive spoke of strange things. Silent human ships appearing out of nowhere, following them without firing a single shot, then vanishing again into the dark. Even the criminal underworld was afraid. For years, smugglers had used Earth's borders to hide from the Empire's patrols. Now, they avoided the Sol system completely. The profit was not worth the risk. One smuggler claimed that his ship's computer had been hacked mid-flight. A calm human voice came through his speakers and simply said, "Turn back." His engines shut down until he obeyed. In the halls of the Imperial Palace, the debates grew louder. Some argued that Earth's silence was a bluff, a way to make the galaxy fear them. "They are only human," one senator said in a speech to the council. "If they refuse to answer, we should force them to answer." Others, including some of the Emperor's most trusted advisors, warned against it. "You don't lock your doors unless something dangerous is outside," one said, quietly, "or unless you are the danger." In secret, the Emperor ordered the military to begin quiet preparations. Fleets were moved closer to human space. Supply depots were stocked. Weapons research accelerated. But the strangest thing was happening, far away from the palace. Small planets and independent colonies began cutting deals with human envoys. These envoys came quietly, without warships, without armies. They arrived on single ships, offered technology or protection, and left again. In less than 2 months, Earth had made silent pacts with more than a dozen small worlds that had once been loyal to the Empire. It was a new kind of war, one fought without a single shot, and the Empire was losing ground without even stepping onto a battlefield. Then, late one night, a report arrived on the Emperor's desk. A long-range patrol near the border of human space had detected something unusual, a massive structure floating in deep space, far from any star. It was not on any chart, and it did not match any known design. The patrol ship tried to approach. Before they could get close, a single human vessel appeared between them and the structure. It did not fire, it did not speak, but the patrol's sensors showed something impossible. The human ship was running on 0 power, and yet it moved. When the patrol refused to turn back, their navigation systems began showing false coordinates. They tried to send a message to the Empire, but the transmission was scrambled. By the time they returned home, they had been drifting for 3 days, and every one of their ship's clocks was wrong. No one could explain it. But one thing was certain. The humans were not just hiding. They were building something. And whatever it was, the galaxy would not be ready. The Emperor had grown tired of guessing. For weeks, he had listened to reports filled with rumors, strange sightings, and unanswered questions. But the one thing he did not have was a clear message from Earth. That changed one cold morning on the imperial capital. It began with a shadow over the city. The early light of the twin suns dimmed as a small black ship entered orbit. It was not escorted. It did not request permission to land. The Imperial Navy scrambled fighters to intercept it, but the moment they approached, their controls froze. The fighters drifted helplessly, their engines dead, their weapons locked in place. The black ship ignored them. It moved silently, almost lazily, until it hovered directly over the Emperor's palace. Alarms blared through the capital. Thousands of soldiers surrounded the palace gates, weapons ready. Anti-air turrets locked onto the ship, but every targeting system failed. One by one, their screens went blank. The black ship released something into the air, a small cube, smooth and shining like obsidian. It floated downward, passing through the palace's energy shields as if they did not exist. The guards tried to catch it, but it moved on its own, drifting through corridors until it reached the Emperor's private chamber. The Emperor was waiting. The cube stopped in front of him. For a moment it was silent. Then, with a low hum, it projected an image into the air. A human face appeared, pale, expressionless, and utterly calm. The figure did not smile, did not frown. It simply stared at the Emperor for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then it spoke, in perfect imperial tongue. "Do not come again." The words were simple, but there was something in the voice. Not anger, not fear, but certainty. The kind of certainty that came from knowing exactly how the future would unfold. The image vanished, but the cube did not fall. Instead, it displayed a list of numbers, scrolling slowly in the air. At first, the Emperor did not recognize them. Then, his blood ran cold. They were coordinates. Every Imperial fleet location, every secret base, every classified outpost. Even the hidden supply stations that only the Emperor and a handful of his highest commanders knew about. No one was supposed to have that information. No one could have gathered it so quickly. The cube dissolved into dust and scattered across the palace floor. The black ship rose from the city, moved past the frozen fighters, and vanished into the clouds. It was gone before the Emperor could even give the order to pursue. The imperial court was shaken. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others whispered that this was a warning the Empire could not afford to ignore. In the outer territories, the story spread like fire. They said the humans had walked into the Emperor's home and told him to stay away, and he had done nothing to stop them. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's image of invincibility had been cracked, and the humans had done it with only a single ship. The Emperor could no longer ignore the challenge. Earth had sent a warning, but warnings meant nothing to an empire built on conquest. If the humans believed the Empire would back away, they were mistaken. In the War Council, the Emperor's voice was firm. "Send a fleet," he ordered. "I want their silence broken. If they refuse to speak, we will make them speak." The Imperial Navy assembled a show of force, 300 warships, including 10 of the Empire's most powerful dreadnoughts. Their mission was simple: approach Earth's border, demand communication, and if no response came, enter the Sol system. The fleet's commander, Admiral Sarth, was confident. He had fought in dozens of campaigns, crushed rebellions, and defeated enemies far more advanced than humans. To him, this mission was nothing more than a political display. The Satu journey was quiet, too quiet. No human scouts followed them. No transmissions tried to block their path. It almost felt as if the humans were ignoring them entirely. When the fleet reached the outer edge of Sul, the stars around them seemed wrong. The navigators reported faint sensor distortions, like ripples in empty space. Admiral Sarth ignored them and gave the order to advance. That was when the lights went out. Every ship in the fleet lost power at the same instant. Engines shut down, weapon systems went dead. Life support hummed weakly, but everything else was silent. Even the comm channels between ships were filled with static. The fleet drifted helplessly, trapped in the dark. Panic spread among the crews. Technicians tried to reboot systems, but every control panel displayed the same message in glowing white letters. "You crossed the line." Admiral Sarth demanded answers. None came. Then, out of the black, human ships appeared. They were unlike anything in Imperial records. Long, sleek vessels with no visible weapons, moving in complete silence. Their hulls seemed to drink in light, making them almost invisible against the void. The humans did not fire. They simply surrounded the Imperial fleet, forming a perfect wall. A few minutes passed. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the Imperial ship's power returned. Engines roared back to life. Weapon systems came online. But something was different. Every ship now carried a new mark on its hull. A single closed door, burned deep into the metal. The humans had left their message, and they had done it without a single shot. Admiral Sarth gave the order to retreat. The fleet turned back, humiliated. Not a single human ship followed them. When they returned to the Imperial capital, the Emperor listened to Sarth's report in silence. The council was furious. Some demanded war. Others warned that a war with Earth could not be won, but the strangest thing was what the crews reported after the mission. Every crew member had the same dream that night, a dream of standing before a vast closed gate with a shadow behind it. The shadow never spoke, but the feeling it gave was the same. If you open this door, you will not like what you find. Admiral Karth was not a man who feared anything. He had commanded fleets for decades, crushed uprisings, and defeated enemies who outnumbered him 10-1. But even he could feel the unease spreading through the Empire. The stories of Earth's silence and the humiliation of Admiral Sarth's fleet were poisoning the morale of the military. Karth believed there was only one solution: speak to the humans directly, not through official orders, not with a public mission, but in secret. If he could find out what Earth wanted, maybe the Empire could end this standoff before it became a war. His plan was simple. He would take his flagship, the Iron Spear, and a small escort of 5 cruisers. They would travel to the Sol border without announcing their presence, and then slip into human space under stealth mode. The Emperor gave no official approval, but Karth knew he had his silent blessing. If the Tempest mission failed, the Empire could deny it ever happened. The journey began smoothly. No human ships appeared, no strange sensor ghosts followed them. The border came into view, the same invisible line where Sarth's fleet had been stopped. Karth crossed it. At first, nothing happened. The fleet moved deeper into human space, passing through the quiet emptiness between planets. The system looked deserted. No patrol ships, no freighters, not even the usual mining drones. Then a signal appeared on the Iron Spear's sensors. It was faint, almost like a whisper in the dark. Coordinates. Karth followed them. The trail led his fleet toward the shadow of a small, lifeless moon. As they rounded it, a human ship came into view. It was massive, larger than any vessel in Imperial records. Its surface was covered in strange, shifting patterns of light, as if the ship itself were alive. A single transmission came through. Admiral Karth, come alone. Karth didn't ask how they knew his name. He left his crew on the Iron Spear and boarded a small shuttle. The human ship opened a silent hangar, letting him inside. What happened after that, no one truly knows. Hours passed. Then, without warning, the Iron Spear and the 5 cruisers vanished from Imperial tracking. No distress calls, no explosions, no wreckage. They were simply gone. Days later, a single object was found drifting near the Sol border, Karth's personal log recorder. The recording was short. His voice was calm, but there was something in it. Something uneasy. We were wrong about them. They are not what they seem. This is not a closed door we can break. It is a prison, and they are the jailers. I am staying. You must not come here again. The recording ended. The Empire officially declared Karth missing in action. But among the fleet, his final words spread like a virus. Soldiers whispered them in mess halls. Engineers repeated them in quiet corners. They are the jailers. And for the first time in its history, the Empire began to wonder if Earth's silence was not a sign of weakness, but a warning to the galaxy to stay away from something far worse. Long after Admiral Karth's disappearance, the galaxy tried to return to normal. Trade routes opened again, political games continued, and the Empire pretended not to fear Earth's silence. But the fear was still there, just hidden beneath layers of pride. It was explorers, not soldiers, who made the next discovery. A small research crew from the neutral world of Ares was mapping an uncharted sector, far from any major trade lane. They were searching for asteroid fields rich in minerals when their scanners picked up something strange. A structure, floating alone in the dark, orbiting a dead star. It was not on any chart. It had no broadcast beacon. At first they thought it was an abandoned station, but as they drew closer, they saw its shape. A massive black fortress. Its surface was smooth and cold, absorbing all light, making it almost invisible. They tried to scan it. The moment they did, their ship's systems froze. The only thing that still worked was life support. Then lights came on across the fortress. Not bright lights, but thin red lines that formed symbols across the hull. Symbols no one recognized. Except one. A closed door. Before the explorers could do anything, a single human ship appeared out of nowhere. It didn't hail them. It didn't aim weapons. It simply sat between them and the black fortress, unmoving. The explorers decided not to stay. The moment they turned their ship away, their controls came back to life. The human vessel did not follow them. When they returned home, they shared their story and discovered they were not the first. Other explorers in different sectors had seen the same thing. Massive black stations, always in deep, empty space, always heavily fortified, always marked with the same closed-door symbol. No one had seen them being built. They had simply appeared, as if they had always been there. The Empire sent covert reconnaissance teams to investigate. Not one of them returned. Even automated probes vanished without a trace the moment they approached. The few fragments of data recovered showed something alarming. These outposts were armed with weapons unlike anything in the galaxy. Energy readings suggested they could destroy a fleet in seconds. But their positioning was strange. They weren't arranged like defenses pointing outward to protect human space. They were pointing inward. One Imperial strategist studied the patterns for weeks before speaking his conclusion aloud. These stations aren't here to keep enemies out. They're here to keep something in. His warning was dismissed. The Empire did not like to believe in things it could not control. But among the smaller worlds, whispers began again. Some claimed the humans had found a threat so great it could destroy the galaxy. Others believed the threat wasn't something the humans had found, but something they had created. And if that was true, the closed doors weren't meant for the Empire at all. They were meant for everyone. The Imperial Navy prided itself on its strength. No matter the enemy, no matter the odds, it had never lost an entire system. That changed in a single night. The Vora system was a key Imperial stronghold. 3 inhabited planets, dozens of orbital stations, and a fleet base with over 70 warships. It was also close to the Sol border, a fact that had made it a tense, heavily guarded region since Earth's silence began. On the night it happened, the Vora fleet detected nothing unusual. Patrols moved along their routes. Civilian traffic flowed normally. The system's star shone bright, steady as it had for billions of years. Then, without warning, the star dimmed. At first, sensors reported a sudden drop in energy output. Strange, but not impossible. Stars sometimes had minor fluctuations. But this was no minor fluctuation. Within minutes, the surface temperature plummeted. The star's light faded from gold to deep red, then to black. Panic spread across the system. Emergency broadcasts filled the comms. Engineers on the fleet's flagships scrambled to find explanations, but none made sense. Stars did not simply die. And yet, Vora's sun was collapsing in on itself. Not into a supernova, not into a black hole, into something else. A dark sphere, perfectly smooth, now hung in the center of the system where the star had been. Its surface shimmered with strange patterns, patterns that Imperial analysts would later match to a symbol they had seen before. A closed door. The collapse unleashed chaos. Without the star's energy, the planets froze. Power grids overloaded as stations and ships tried to generate their own heat. Within hours, the Imperial fleet began evacuating civilians. But the dark sphere seemed to pull at them. Navigation systems failed. Compasses spun wildly. Then, the sphere vanished. No explosion. No debris. Just empty space where a star had been. The damage was done. The Vora system was dead. Billions of lives were lost. When the news reached the Imperial capital, the blame was immediate. The closed-door symbol was a human mark. The timing was too perfect. The Vora system had been a staging point for future operations against Earth. The Emperor's generals demanded retaliation. "This is war," they said. "They have struck at the heart of the Empire." But there was one problem. No one had seen a single human ship. Not before the collapse, not during, not after. Some in the council argued that this was proof of the humans' danger, that they could destroy entire systems without even showing themselves. Others wondered if the humans had done this at all, or if they were guarding against something that had. In the outer worlds, the whispers grew louder. If Earth had the power to kill a star, what else could they do? And if they didn't do it, then what was strong enough to make them build those black outposts? For the first time in the Empire's history, the military began to hesitate before moving ships near human space. Because if the humans could reach into the heart of a star and close its light, they could do it anywhere. The Great Galactic Council had ruled the stars for centuries. It was a place where peace was made and broken, where wars were started and stopped by words, not weapons. But the silence of Earth was changing everything when news of the Vora system's death reached the council chambers. Shock rippled through every corner of the galaxy. Some members demanded immediate action, a full-scale war against Earth to stop whatever power they had unleashed. Others pleaded for caution, warning that attacking a world that could kill stars without fighting back might destroy the entire galaxy. The debate was fierce and divided. Old allies turned against each other. Former enemies found new reasons to distrust. The Council, once a symbol of unity, was cracking at its seams. Behind closed doors, secret meetings took place. Some worlds, fearing the Empire's wrath or Earth's unknown power, quietly signed hidden agreements with human envoys. These pacts promised advanced technology, protection, and knowledge, all in exchange for silence and loyalty. The Empire's spies discovered the alliances too late. Small planets and mining colonies slipped away, pledging loyalty to Earth's cause without firing a single shot. The Emperor watched all of this with growing anger and fear. His once mighty empire was losing power without a war. In the military, halls, generals whispered of betrayal. "How can we fight an enemy who does not fight?" one asked. "How do we strike a target that never fires a shot?" said another. The galaxy was changing. The old rules no longer applied, and at the center of it all was a world that had closed its doors, a world that did not need to shout to be heard. The Council's fear was simple. If Earth could break the balance of power without firing a weapon, what would happen when it finally decided to speak? The Emperor had reached his limit. For months he had watched the Empire lose influence, allies slipping away like grains of sand through his fingers. The silence from Earth was no longer just an insult. It was a threat to his rule. In the Grand War Chamber, he made a decision that would change everything. "Prepare the fleets. We will invade Earth." Thousands of ships gathered, weapons primed, engines roaring to life. The largest armada in history began its slow march toward the Sol system. At first, everything seemed normal. Ships passed through friendly space. Communications were steady, supplies were delivered on time, but then one by one systems began to go dark. Planets vanished from scanners. Communication channels fell silent. Entire supply lines disappeared without a trace. In the Imperial command centers, confusion turned to panic. Generals shouted orders to reroute fleets, to send backup, to find the missing systems. But no help came. The fleet commander, Admiral Vex, grew uneasy as he approached the outer border of human space. His sensors picked up strange energy patterns, flickers of light and shadow, impossible to explain. When the Armada crossed the last safe point, the fleet began to break apart. Ships lost contact with each other. Navigation systems failed. Crews reported strange visions, walls shifting, shadows moving where there should be none. Admiral Vex tried to rally his forces, but even he could not deny the truth. Earth was not just defending itself. It was changing the rules of war entirely. Back at the Imperial Palace, the Emperor's face grew pale as reports poured in. The systems that vanished were not random. They were key military and supply centers, places the Empire could not afford to lose. And with each system that disappeared, the Emperor's control slipped further away. The invasion fleet was stalled at the border, unable to advance. A message came from Earth, broadcast across every Imperial channel, unencrypted and clear. "You were warned. The Empire had reached its breaking point, and the silence from Earth was no longer just a warning, it was a promise. The Imperial Armada stood on the edge of the Sol system, weapons ready and crews tense. They had come to end the silence once and for all, to break Earth's door and show the galaxy who ruled the stars. But Earth had already won. Without warning, a wall of black ships appeared between the Armada and the planets. Thousands of vessels, larger and more advanced than anything the Empire had ever seen, moved as one, silent, perfect, and deadly. The human ships did not fire. They did not shout demands or launch missiles. They simply stood there, an unbreakable barrier. A voice echoed through every ship's communication system, calm and steady, carrying a power no one expected. You were warned. You crossed the line. Now, the door is closed forever. The Imperial commanders shouted for attacks, for retreats, for any order that would break the silence. But the human fleet held steady. Then the stars themselves seemed to change. Energy surged from Earth, a pulse of power so vast it rippled across space like a shock wave. Sensors on Imperial ships flickered and died. Navigation failed. Communication was lost. One by one, Imperial ships fell silent. Some simply vanished from scanners. Others drifted, lifeless, as if their souls had been pulled from the machines. The Emperor's throne room was filled with silence. The great empire, the strongest power in the galaxy, had been stopped without a single shot fired in anger. Earth's doors were closed, and behind those doors, humanity waited. No one knows what lay beyond the final door. No one knows if the empire still exists, or if it was lost in the silence. But one thing is certain. The stars will never forget the day Earth closed its doors, and the galaxy will never forget the warning it carried. The silence did not end with the closing of Earth's door. If anything, it grew deeper, heavier, as if something was watching. From the dark spaces between stars, the Empire was shattered, its fleets scattered or lost. The Great Galactic Council had dissolved into chaos, and smaller worlds carved out new paths in the emptiness. But whispers remained. Among traders and explorers, rumors spoke of strange signals coming from beyond the Sol system's outer limits. Signals unlike anything the galaxy had heard before, coded pulses, rhythmic patterns, and sometimes haunting echoes of human voices. Scientists and spies tried to decode them, but the messages vanished as quickly as they appeared. Some claimed these were warnings from Earth. Others said they were calls for help. In hidden corners of the galaxy, secret groups formed, old allies and new enemies bound by fear and curiosity. They shared a single goal: understand what lay beyond Earth's door and prepare for whatever might come. Some believed the humans had locked away a terrible secret, a power so great that it could reshape the stars. Others whispered that the door was not just a prison, but a gateway, and the most dangerous question of all lingered. What if someone or something was waiting on the other side? Years passed after Earth closed its doors. The galaxy slowly rebuilt. But the shadow of Earth's silence never faded. Scientists, explorers, and spies worked tirelessly to understand the mystery. They sent probes, listened to the faint signals, and studied the black outposts. But every answer only raised more questions. Some believed Earth had changed, evolved into something beyond human. Others thought Earth had become a guardian, protecting the galaxy from a threat too terrible to face. In quiet corners, old legends grew. Stories of a final door not just closing, but opening, to places beyond space and time. Places where the rules of reality bent and twisted. One thing was certain: the galaxy was no longer the same. Earth's silence had broken the stars, and whatever waited beyond the door was watching, waiting for the right moment. And when that moment came, no one would be ready.